before, and those who are joining newly, I welcome you all to this. I always like to call it a knowledge share session, because we're all here to learn and share from our experiences. And that's why this webinar for me, it's critical for our learning. So I'll go ahead to share my screen. Permit me 1 minute to do that. Yeah. Okay. Okay, can you see my screen? Can you see my screen? Anyone?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. So before we go in, I would like to just take a moment to know our webinar participants. So this is the point where they say you should prove that you're not a robot. So if you could kindly introduce yourself in the chat room, if you want to unmute yourself and speak to your introduction, but please, I can see the names here, but can we know that you guys are no robots? This is the era of artificial intelligence. So just a moment, can you just take a moment? Okay, Zaharaddin Muhammad, thank you. You're welcome, Mr. Zaharaddin. Habibu Ma'aruf Abdu, you're welcome. People with this name are very particular about the Ma'aruf. They don't like you calling them Ma'aruf. Welcome, Mr. Habibu. Who else do we have? Yeah, I know. I have a childhood friend who's Maruf, and he hates it when you call him Maruf. Okay.
I think Haja Halima will want
Haja Halima, okay. Haja Halima, you can unmute yourself.
Yes.
Unmute and introduce yourself if you want to.
Hello, good evening. I'm Haja Halima Abdullahi.
Welcome, Haja Halima. Good to have you here.
Thank you, sir.
Ibrahim Sani Ahmad, good to have you here. Emmanuel Genio, good to have you here as well. All right, so.
Yes, can you unmute yourself if you want to use the mic?
Yeah, if you want to use the mic, unmute yourself, then mute back on when you're done. Okay, thank you. So today we're going to be talking about the drama of distribution. The topic that I was given to speak to is managing channel conflict, right? Techniques for resolving conflict between different distribution channels. Conflict, we all know, is a part of our lives. We live through conflict every single day of our lives. For the married folks around amongst us, we know that there's conflict between you and your wife, between spouses, between siblings, between work colleagues, between managers and employees. Conflict is a part of life, and you can't do without it at every level of interaction. Yeah, so it's so also for distribution channels, and because this is the business and this is money, as a money-making venture, so it now becomes more critical that conflict are identified and dealt with so that they don't affect eventually your money-making method. So we're going to be talking about how to manage distribution channel conflict amongst our channel. Okay, so we're going to be talking about a few things. It's not going to be a very deep, detailed, because the topic for which we're speaking to is something that is known to all of you, and that's why I say just a knowledge share. Yeah. So I believe, in my own view, it's a tug of war. You guys have your business that you run, and you know that it's always, you wake up in the morning, it's a tug of war, it's a fight between you, between your employees, between your team members, between you and your distributors and your retailers, everyone. It's a tug of war. everyone trying to survive. So we'll be looking at channel dynamics in today's digital world, because it's a digitalized world now. It becomes more difficult and more apparent because technology has really evolved and made conflict much more broader, much more global. And so now it's not only you and your next door retailer or distributor. You're doing this conflict is global. It's gone globally. So again, you need to spot the signs before they mess with your brand. So the signs that you should look out for in conflict, some may be out there. You see them in your face, some are subtle. So you need to just understand the dynamics around those conflicts so that you're able to confront them early on, head on, and deal with it. So you need to have a game plan, right? So I just looked at maybe what I think is the low-hanging fruits. 5 of the game plans that you can utilize to be able to resolve those conflicts when they arise, because they will arise, like I said. And then also we'll be looking at some real startup successes in terms of how they have been able to manage conflict and evolve, and scale and became big businesses. Yeah. So before we get into it, let's just do a quick poll. Mr. Moderator, can you run the first poll? Let's just take a quick poll and understand, get a sense of. Okay, so the poll is being run. I hope you can all see it. Have you ever had a retailer or distributor sell your product cheaper than you? Simple enough question, and I'm sure that you can answer it in your sleep. So can we have responses? Just go to the chat box, right? No. So you can just answer the poll, actually. Okay, but Mr. Moderator, can you see? I can't see. I'm not allowed to vote, so I can't see the submit, right?
Oh my God.
I can't see I need to see the results.
Yes, sorry. You'll be able to see it now.
Okay, great.
Awesome. Yes.
Okay. I want to share the results.
Okay, that's good.
But I do not have the share option.
No problem.
I have to end it, right?
Yes, at the end of the poll, then they will be able to see the result.
I have to end it and share. Okay. All right. So, okay, great. So 50% of the people say that, yes, they have experienced it and it hurt their brand. 50% say no, but they have seen it happen. Excellent. So this is very good. At least, so I'm not talking to novices. I'm talking to people who actually have experienced it or have seen it happen somewhere else. So this is the time for us to look at how we can streamline our branding and our partnerships to be able to resolve the conflict. So this is insightful. Thanks for taking time out to do the poll. So let's go on. So what is channel conflict? Imagine this, and for 50% of us, we're not just imagining this, but it's happened to us. For the other 50%, they have seen it happen. So your product is a hot cake. Your online store sells it for 100,000 naira, dollars, pounds, euro. But your distributor offers it for 85,000. Your customers are confused. Your brand looks messy, right? It's a brand reputational item now. And your team is confused also and asking who's in charge here. Are you the distributor or the business owner in charge, or are the retailers in charge? So this is very, very typical, and speaks to exactly what the 50% of you who have experienced it have seen. And I'm sure you've been in situations where these questions were on the lips of many. right? So what just happened? This is just a classic case of channel conflict. Simple. So that's why I said that it's not a hair-brained webinar we're going to have today. It's something that you live with throughout your business, throughout your businesses, day by day, and your experience. So a simple definition is channel conflict is when different people or platforms selling your product start competing with each other instead of working together. Someone called it co-opetition. So it's a competition and cooperation put together. It's a word. I don't know if it's in the dictionary, but I know I was in a seminar some years ago, and someone coined that word to say it's a co-opetition. So this is simply the definition of a channel conflict. People who are selling your products, but they are competing with each other instead of working together to sell your brand, to sell your product. So it isn't just about, channel conflict isn't just about pricing issue, because that's the most obvious, right? It's a price issue. But it's a brand and trust issue. And that's why your brand, when your customers are confused, when your own team is not sure of who is in charge, then there's a brand and trust issue. And that ultimately affects your brand. So it's simple and clear what a brand conflict is. And I know that you can relate simply. So, but who is in charge? That's the question that's been asked. The answer is simple, that you are, because it's your business. But you need to understand how you need to own up to that business and manage that channel conflict. Manage your channel, manage your distribution chain, your retailership chain, and be able to manage, get people to cooperate rather than compete against each other. But that can only happen if you define clear rules, pricing, and communication across your channels. Simple. So you're in charge, but you need to be ensured that those your retailers are clearly defined in terms of what their roles are and how you also communicate to them. So as a class among your channels, what's really going on? There are a lot of so many reasons why. You can also tell me, some of those reasons that or types that you've experienced, right? But just on a broader level, just to guide this our conversation, I decided to look at probably the top 4 that are the most common in terms of channel conflict. Yeah. So I started earlier by saying that conflict is a part of our life. Now, the market landscape right now in Nigeria, in Africa, and the world, there's intense competition among startups, MSMEs. Rapid digital disruption that's reshaping distribution channels. I mean, this is so clear. And the rate at which technology is impacting on businesses, on distribution channels, is crazy. You wake up today, there's a product line. In the next 24 hours, there's going to be 2, 3, 4 more changes to that product. Even if you take a bigger size product or big ticket products like the iPhone, for example, before you finish unboxing iPhone 16, iPhone 17 is already out, right? So that has made distribution conflict much more paramount in today's business world. Of course, there's pricing pressure also. People want to sell. People want to keep customers. They want loyalty. So therefore, there's a pressure for you to reduce your price, adjust your price upwards or downwards in any case. So that all those factors have coalesced into making conflict now so much more difficult to handle in terms of businesses and our distribution channels. So, vertical level conflict. So simply when different levels clash, like your supplier now selling directly to your customers, or you who is a supplier skipping your distribution channel or your retailer channel and selling directly to a customer. So it's a manufacturer versus retailer issue. So your distributor starts, if you're a retailer, a distributor, your manufacturer jumps your level and sells to your retailer. So now you're competing with your own supplier. How then do you do that? How can you survive? You can't offer the same price. You can't compete in terms of marketing. You can't compete in terms of branding. So how do you survive? This is one of the biggest conflicts that happens in businesses, that eats up businesses and makes it very difficult for MSMEs, especially and startups, to survive. Because once you start that game of managing that conflict, then it eats you up and you find out that you're struggling to survive that conflict rather than trying to make money and improve your business. Imagine if you have a fashion store and you have employed, you have a tailor who does the sewing for you. You have a fashion brand, and then the seller now decides that he's going to supply directly to your VIP clients, and he skips you. That's a typical conflict in the vertical space. So horizontal level conflict, same level partners fight over customers. So true retailers, if you are a retailer or a distributor and you have a chain of retailers, then two of them fight over each other for business. Typical example, you have two POS agents, for example, in the same streets, offering 100 naira cashback each customer just so that they can woo their customers and get their loyalty. And once you start offering them a discount of 100 naira, 50 naira, and then it goes to 100 naira, it goes to 200 naira. When do you start? When do you stop? And at what level does it become madness? Yeah, and it's into your business. You have two retailers probably pushing your product, selling your product on the some shop floor. They're in the same plaza, for example, and then they sell your products, but because they want to outdo each other and want to sell, they offer different prices, and there's a conflict. How do you manage that? So that's a horizontal level conflict. Intertype channel conflict is where different channel types compete. So you have, for example, your online store or your franchise. You have people who have franchised your businesses to, and they are all selling the same product, different prices. Typical example is you have a shop, you have an Instagram boutique, for example, you're online, you sell a product for 15,000 naira, but maybe your reseller in Sabongari market or Gariki market offers it for 13,000 naira. How then do you compete? It's a franchise. How do you compete? Do you stop working with that franchise, look for another one, and how long will that guy or that franchise also continue to work with you and not go into the conflict? So that's inner type channel conflict. So multi-channel level conflict is multiple channels compete with each other. So you have an online, you sell your product on Gmail, on Instagram, and in store, but each of them has a different price and different promo, which goes back to what we said earlier about customers being confused about your brand not understanding what's happening, and your team also in the dark as to what's happening. So these are basically the top 4. There are so many others that are below the line you will have experienced in your journey, I'm sure. But these are the top 4 that you see happen on a daily basis that affects businesses. Now, the problem with channel conflict is that it affects your brand in so many ways that you may not even know, or you may not be privy to at any point in time. But its long-term effect is devastating for your business, because at the end of the day, you lose your brand control. And this is for startups, MSMEs, as well as big global brands in the world. You lose brand control and reputation. People don't, and then so that's why you see people say people don't know whether your product is the original or is a knockoff. So that reputation and trust and loyalty of your customers will be lost. So channel conflict is beyond just this 4 that we've described here. Like I said, this is just to guide our conversation, but it has much more bigger impact in terms of how it affects your brand and your business. So let me ask that, you know, in your businesses, yeah, in your own space, what's the worst pricing conflict that you've seen? Just put it in the chat box. Especially for the 50, well, for everyone, even for the ones who haven't experienced it but have seen it. Just drop your comment in the chat. Okay, anyone?
Yes, I want to believe they are typing.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, we've got more people now who haven't introduced themselves. Maybe we can do that later on. Okay, so so this is not an exam, right? This is you. Okay, rephrase the question. So the question is that what's in your own space, in your own market space, what is the worst pricing conflict that you've seen in your own market space? If you have a boutique, if you're a health and fitness business, if you sell, if you have a shop or a business in Canteen Query, if you sell cars, whatever business you are, conflicts arise. So what have you experienced personally, just in one word, in one sentence, or what one have you seen more in your own space? So that's the question. Example? I was hoping that I will get your own experience. So because this is not like it's not like a lecture, right? Say, did you bring a supplier selling at the same price to both distributor and end user? I was shocked to find out the contractor has crippled my price. Okay, Halima. Okay, exactly. So just your own personal experiences, because this is not a lecture. You guys are in business. You have seen some of these conflicts happen to you. One solar product, Haradin Muhammad, one solar product, new view. People are telling me they buy it at the price I didn't even purchase. Exactly. So how does that happen? That's a conflict. Yeah. So thank you. I mean, that's exactly what I was trying to understand from you. You've seen that channel conflict. So this is just to drive home the point that it's something you live with. It's something that happens to you on a daily. MTN broadband 4G router are selling at 15K, and inside the barter market, it's been sold less than the company price. Excellent. This is real life. Simple. Yeah. This is what we all live with. This is your reality. Exactly. Exactly. Thank you. Thanks for your responses. Yeah. Okay, so moving on. So what does it happen? Again, like I said, this is not a lecture. We're not in BIS 404 BUK, right? By the way, BUK is my school, so I'm not disparaging BUK. Yeah, so, but this is a learning and sharing session because we all learn. So this is not all of why conflicts happen in the market space, but I just took some of the ones that I think are prominent and maybe easy to understand. And then when it comes to solutions, easy to resolve. So price wars. I mean, we spoke about it. You're online selling for 10,000 and then your distribution says 8,500. Your customers are like, what's happening here? I mean, the 5G broadband, how is it happening? You know, you're confused. You're asking how they need to, because you can't sell for what they are selling because it doesn't make sense. You haven't even bought it at that price and someone is selling. So is it a brand? Well, I mean, you could say that MTN has a brand equity. So you wouldn't say this is a fake 5G MTN broadband, right? But there are questions that you ask, similar to what your team members will ask. What's happening? Who's in charge? So price wars are the main driver, basically, of conflict. Everybody wants to survive. Everybody wants to sell. Everyone wants to have database, a huge chunk of the market share. So therefore, they want to slash prices or find a way around the prices. Territory overlap. So encroachment from other people in other territories, selling in your own territory, selling at a lower price than you are, and then you wonder how they're able to, how they do that, what drives them to do that. This is something that personally, in my years of work that I experienced, I used to work some years ago in Kano. By the way, maybe for anybody who has worked in the FMCG, telecoms, or banking space or whatever, Kano territory used to be, I don't know now, I've left like 10 years back. Kano used to be one of the most difficult to understand markets in Nigeria. I know it, then in Coca-Cola, if they transferred you to Kano, they used to jinx it and say that you're on your way out, right? Because you can't win the war. Some 10 years ago, some certain young man who was our distributor in Juice A will speak to territory overlap when the big dealers in Kano used to come to his territory and sell, and he will call me at 4 a.m. in the morning, and we used to have a lot of back and forth. I'm sure he knows himself if he's on this call, but it's an experience. So territory overlap, encouragement is one of the also key drivers for conflict. Unclear roles. Who's supposed to sell what, where, and how? Remember when we said you're in charge, and then you need to ensure that you defined clear roles for everyone. Otherwise, that conflict will not abate. Nobody knows who's selling what and where. It's like a soap opera. Inconsistent incentives also for those of you who have retailers or you have online distributors or online retailers. You give one retailer a bonus, for example, for selling your product, for meeting up the targets, and you send somebody a thank you text. guess who's not smiling? You're creating a problem for your brand. You have an online team, for example, who work daily behind your brand. They get bonuses. Then your retail partners who are in-store physical outlets, they get a thank you note. Then you know that you're in for trouble and you're setting up yourself for channel conflict in your distribution chain. We talked about disruption of the digital world. That is one of the biggest disruptors right now in terms of causing channel conflict. So imagine if you have a situation where you have an Instagram shop, online shop, you also have a physical store, and your Instagram shop is outselling your physical store because people are quick to get online, click of a button, they buy, they place an order, you deliver, and nobody goes to a physical store because it's right in the heart of canteen quarry, and there's no parking space, nobody wants to go to experience that traffic. So digitally, you're exposed and your business is disrupted. And then now, if you have retailers, they're also Googling how to become an influencer because, okay, so Instagram is where it works. So why am I selling this guy's products and it's not moving? Of course, there's a modern twist. E-commerce, social media shops, influencer marketing are new sources of conflict. Modern world, modern businesses, and how technology has influenced the way we do business. E-commerce platforms now make it easy for you to do business, purchase business all over the world, purchase whatever product you need to purchase at the comfort of your room with the press of a button. I'm sure all of us here have social media shops. Now you don't have to do brick and mortar anymore. You don't have to have money to own a shop. That has really disrupted the way we used to do business and makes it easy for conflicts to happen. And then you have influencers who have become marketers. And because of the influence that they have over people, it's easy for them to also sell. If I go back to the 5G example, the router, right, the broadband, maybe some influencer has some deal with the MTN distributor to sell it at a certain price. So he can move his business, which you cannot compete with. So that's another source of conflict. Okay, so let's move on. I hope I'm not jumping a slide. Okay, yeah, good. So how do you resolve the conflict? Again, like I said, this is just me picking 6 different ways to do it, right? 5 different ways actually to do it. But there are many more that you probably do know that I don't. But speaking to what we said about the causes, this could be the antidote. Now, audit your channels. You have to know who is selling what, where, and how. It's very important. If your online store is running sales, your retail outlet in the market is clueless. They don't know what's happening. And you have a cousin who's giving family discount to strangers. That's not a business, that's a comedy, right? So you need to understand who is selling what at whatever point in time. Map your sales channels. This is what the big businesses do. This is what the Coca-Colas, the Pepsis do. So they've mapped the channels, they map the territory, and they track who's selling what at every point in time. I mean, I'm talking about way back when there was no technology, really. And then if you know anybody who knows Coca-Cola, there's no village in the world that you go to that you don't see Coca-Cola. How did they achieve that? Because they've done proper mapping. I know that even banks and telecoms companies then used to say that they should copy the Coca-Cola model. How did they achieve that deep end distribution last mile? So you need to also do that at the level that you are. Even if you have just an area, so imagine you sell just in Hadija Road. I'm talking about the physical selling now, right? Or in Garki, you need to also achieve this level of efficiency in terms of how you map your channels. And then you need to also align your messaging and price across board. So that alignment ensures that your channel is on the right track. And then you know at every point in time who's selling what product, at what price, where they're selling and how they're selling it. Territory mapping is a key skill, is a key activity that happens across all businesses. People are employed as professionals to do territory mapping. And now with GIS and geospatial alignment, it becomes very easy. Now you can have your coordinates, you can have your Google, what's the word now? Map, right? Your Google map, and then it's easy for you to delineate your territories and have your mapping done. Before now, it was easy. It was hard, really. It was done. I had to do it physically, but now it's easier. So now you have the tools to be able to do it easy with technology. So spot the conflicts. Very important. Remember we said before they mess with your brand. Those wars that happen among your retailers and those battles around prices. So, for example, one of the issues that was raised around, I just seem to always go back to, okay, so the solar product, the MTN broadband. So issues around, one of the things you must do is, why does that happen? You need to spot it. So there's something that's called market intelligence. As a businessman, you have to be able to do market intelligence. Why does that happen? You need to spot that conflict before it happens. So identify if it's an overlap of territory, or like I said earlier, if it's an influencer marketing stuff, somebody's getting paid to, or if that guy has a promo with MTN, if he's a major distributor. So those are the things you need to identify and then find out how you can work around that to survive. Otherwise, they will run out of business. You need to resolve pricing inconsistencies and create clear boundaries and clear engagement. That way, it's easy for you to understand clearly the issues around why those pricing issues happen, or why there's a war amongst your retailers. They say that there's what they say about internal chaos is the fastest way to lose external trust. So if there's chaos in your business internally, your team is confused, your customers are all over the whole place selling at whatever price, there's no alignment, there's no mapping, then you lose your external trust and people don't trust you anymore. They don't know who they are buying from and they don't know what your brand is. So the third part is you need to communicate clearly. They say silent isn't golden, it's suspicious. In today's business world, silence isn't golden anymore. So you have WhatsApp, that business that we use dashboards or whatever it is that you use to communicate to your customers, to your chain. You need to share updates, you need to share promos or pricing in real time so that customers are always aware where you are. Now, maybe if I was speaking to the other guys who are selling less than what you buy in the market, if you are also in that space. So sometimes you have promos that you run, and then you probably sell a product for less than its value. But the most important is that you need to communicate it to everyone in your value chain. Now, that way, your brand reputation stays intact, because people already know ahead of time that, oh, there's a promo coming starting on the 1st of October to the 5th of October for independence. So therefore, we're going to buy this product at X amount less than how we buy it. However, after the 5th of October, we revert back. So it's clear. So communication is very clear. It's very important. And then you need to encourage people to give you feedback. You need to talk and tell people what you're doing before it turns into gossip. So like I said, silence is no longer golden. Communication is key in terms of how you manage conflict among your chain. So incentive alignment, everybody should win when you win. If you give people incentives, or if you give people discounts, retailer or distributor discounts, don't give somebody a 5% and give somebody a 7% when they are selling the same product. So even if their margins are, even if they are selling, so assume the volumes are different, which is normal and natural, then you need to have a volume-based incentive, right? Or a milestone-based incentive. So for example, I'm pushing 100,000 volumes for you. Mr. Y is pushing 10,000 volumes for you. Then we need to have the differentiated incentive. So you can have, so if it's a 10%, let's say your incentive is 10%. 10% of 10,000, sure, is different from 10% of 100,000. So that's the baseline. But I can also say to you that for every X amount of increase in volumes or in sales, you get X amount of incentives additional. So I mean, those are incentives that can encourage people to push your product. So you need to have a fair commission structure. Let it be fair to everyone, and then people see that it's fair and they can compete. And then when there's a win for everyone, when there's a win for you, and I know that there are people who, for example, when they make a lot of sales at the end of the year, maybe in December or any of their financial year, they declare some tokens. Some people host. I know a guy who sells. So he's in Abuja. He sells rams. I mean, he's a big time rams, cows, and everything. So what he does is at every Salah, big Salah, he gives some incentives, because people come to him from all across Abuja to buy. So he says, if you buy a certain number of rams or cows during that period, you get an additional ram or goat free. So those kind of, because that's his peak period, and he gets a lot of money, a lot of purchases during that period. So therefore, he cascades that win to downline to all his retailers and distributors, people who come to buy from him, and everyone is happy. So you see that people struggle to push and buy from him during that time, because you want to buy a certain number so that you can take one for yourself or take one and sell. You know, so it's a example. Somebody said that you cannot give one child meat pie and give the other one crumbs. You know, it's chaos you're creating. Yeah. So okay. Lastly, is monitor and adapt fast. Your channel is like Lagos traffic or Kano traffic, even unpredictable. These are the two cities where I know that they have the craziest traffics in Nigeria. The ones I know I've been to. So what worked last night, you drive home this night, the road is free. By the time you leave 6 a.m. tomorrow, you think that the whole of all the cars in Nigeria are on that street. So you need to stay agile. You have to monitor, use dashboards, feedback loops, track performance, use all the technology that's at your beck and call to track your value chain's performance. You need to adapt faster than that conflict can escalate, because it escalates like this. With the disruption in technology, it's per second. So you need to stay ahead of the game, ahead of the curve. Otherwise, you're going to be that car that's going to be stuck in traffic. Yeah. So, okay, let me go on. I think we're almost... okay. So some of the real life wins and global successes, from Lagos to London, Kano to California, smart businesses turn conflicts into opportunities and scale with confidence. And this is a typical example of what I was saying around how some have been able to manage conflict successfully. So Ziva is a fashion brand in Lagos, right? They experience price disparity between Instagram store and physical outlets, caused dissatisfaction among their retail partners. So what did they do? They aligned prices across platforms and introduced exclusive bundles for online shoppers. So you can see how they clearly were able to align their prices. So bundles for people who shop online and people who shop in store. Harmonizing. So the lesson is that they harmonized their prices and differentiated offerings, which fosters trust and cooperation. So if you're online, you buy online, you don't feel cheated when somebody who is in the physical store gets a different incentive or bundle. So Abichi meal delivery, I don't know if anybody knows this in Kano. So, but this one's speaking to territory overlap between delivery agents and local vendors. So they deliver food and they mapped a territory, but of course, people jump into other people's territory and it causes a lot of dissatisfaction. So they use geo-targeted promotions on WhatsApp ordering zones to assign delivery areas and reduce overlap. So this is the use of technology, simple WhatsApp, and they did an ordering zone and map zones, which greatly reduced the territory overlap and the conflict. Technology and local insights to manage territorial conflicts in logistics. So I just want to speak to Nigerians, the ones in Nigeria that we can relate to. Wellness brand in Abuja, what they did, they had a conflict. Online discount caused customers to prefer shopping online, upsetting physical health stores in Wuse. So they had a store. You can imagine if having a big giant store in Wuse, how much is this going to cost you to pay for that shop in a year? And then you have products nobody's buying because people are buying online. Now, what did they do? So they had store exclusive loyalty programs. So they introduced loyalty programs in store to incentivize customers to visit the physical store. So again, that's another way. I'll give you an incentive to come to the store. They gave you consultations and then offline shopping experience. So you come to buy a health and wellness product and you have a doctor or a physician there who says to you, oh, no, what's your problem? Don't buy this, buy this. Let me consult. Okay, this is your issue. No, I think you need to see a doctor. So free consultation. So it allowed, so people had also now a motive to go to their stores, and so they're able to balance online convenience and offline personal service. So this is another way that wellness store in Abuja was able to resolve that conflict. Now, globally, Nike had pricing and product segmentation between Nike's websites and third-party resellers. So they had, at the point they were going through a third party to sell Nike products. They were selling that through Amazon, actually. So, but when it was becoming a conflict for them, what they did was to reduce reliance on third-party retailers and focus on direct-to-customer sales via website and flagship stores. You know that at the point, they had exclusive stores in almost across the whole world. And then now you could order whatever brand that you want of Nike products online. So D2C for them offered exclusive offerings that resolve channel conflicts and also strengthen their brand control. Because at the point, if you had a Nike sneakers for $1,000 and someone else was selling it for $800 or $700, you begin to wonder, is this a Nike? And it's a prestige brand, so people will not buy it. So these are some of the real life businesses that have faced conflict at one point or another, and use some of those things that we discussed earlier to work around it and achieve some level of success. And this can happen to your business as well. It's the same way that they have been able to succeed. You can also succeed in your business. And I know that you've identified from the feedback that we got in the chat box that you have experienced some level of conflict in your business, and you continue to experience that as long as you're in business. So, but what is important is how are you able to spot the conflict before it eats into your brand, and how you're able to quickly resolve it, monitor and adapt, pivot quickly, because that's key. At the end of the day, if you're not able to really and truly pivot quickly, then you're going to be left stuck in that traffic, like that car in the early morning traffic in Lagos or Kano. So basically, this brings me to the end of this deck. However, maybe as a final conversation, if I can have anyone share their experience, maybe you can unmute if you want to, or you want to enter it in the chat box. If you're facing a channel conflict right now, maybe like those two, maybe we can discuss amongst us how can we troubleshoot that dispute. Let's troubleshoot it together. For example, what do you think that we, out of what we've seen today in terms of the causes and how we can resolve that channel conflict, we'll pick one and say how do we think we can resolve that? Okay, great. So you do Jibril, you want to unmute or you want to write in the chat box?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Saidu. Just kindly unmute yourself. I think I've given you that privilege. You can unmute and speak now.
All right, great. Saidu, please let's hear from you, and I want us to just troubleshoot this scenario together when he gives it to us. And let's go ahead, please.
Okay. Good evening. I hope
good evening.
you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
But you're breaking. The voice is breaking.
Okay. Thinking is network. So thank you very much for this wonderful session. My the experience I want to share is there's this particular, I work in the health sector, whereby we supply hospital equipment and consumables. So I worked with this company before that the company import directly from China some of these machines and some consumables and sells to both distributors and end users. So he has a office here in Kano. He had an office here. So he sells to both distributors and end users because he has marketers. I used to be his marketer to go and market to companies, hospitals directly and sell to them. So the conflict, the issue is that the distributors that are here based in Kano, where he opens an office here, the same price which he gives them. For example, some consumer, let's say, for example, now a packet of syringe, he will sell it to them at 40,000 naira, for example. that same packet of syringe, if a hospital is going to buy it, is also give it to them at that same price. And those people that are distributors that are buying from him, they are also selling to hospitals like that. So it's kind of like created a conflict issue because those distributors were complaining that why? Because there seems to be an issue because these end users, when they want to buy from them, they can't sell it at that same price that they are getting it from this company. They have to put something on their own. And you know the market, especially in Nigeria, is based on price. They are always is price competitive. Everything is based on price. So I now suggested to the company that if that is the case, then there have to be a there have to be differences in the prices. You can't be selling to a distributor at the same price you are selling to someone like the end user. It's going to be there's going to be conflict because we are all sharing the same market, the same place. So assuming it's a different territory, say for example, maybe the other person is maybe in Kasina or in Jigawa, that is understandable. You can say, okay, no problem, they can so since it's not the same territory. But since it's the same territory, it's nothing, it doesn't really it's about the argument of the company is that they are willing to drop the price for distributors, but the distributors have to meet a minimum order quantity, which could be sometimes they will say they have to buy at least 100 packs and before they can, drop the price for them to give it at distributor price. But these distributors are also arguing that it doesn't matter even though they are buying 10 pieces because at the end of the day they are not using this thing. They are still going to resell. So sometimes they might buy 50 packs, sometimes they might just be able to afford 10 because they have to source the capital to buy other things. So they can't use all their capital for that particular item. They have other items so they want to buy from other uh importers also. So that is the issue. So I don't know if what you think about that and what's your take on such. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Saidu. That's a very good one. I mean, this spoke to exactly what we discussed earlier on. So I don't know if anyone wants to have a go at what Mala Saidu described, the conflict that he described. Does anyone want to have a go at it? Maybe let's hear anyone's opinion. Any takers? Or should I put someone on the spot? I'll just call a name. No, but really, any takers? So I couldn't hear exactly. I heard it wasn't very clear when he was speaking, but I could pick some key elements of what he said. And if I'm correct, maybe I can just rephrase. Basically, it's about a company selling the same product, which in this case is a syringe or some medical equipment, to distributors as well as end users, same price. If I get that, and then the company is also saying that they are willing to give the distributors a differentiated pricing as long as they're able to do some minimum order quantity. And that's a challenge for the distributors because they also have other businesses or they have other line of products that they need to put their money on, if I get the general gist of what Mr. Isaidu described. So maybe my own take will be that, this is what the first conflict type that we described, which is the vertical conflict, is what's happening here. So they are selling directly, companies selling directly to some price to the distributors and the retailers. So it's basically will be killing the distributor business because so what's the point for distributing that company's product if you're selling to me the same way you're selling to the end users, right? So how do you resolve that conflict? Now, if you look at some of these examples, that we shared, especially in Nigeria. Look at the wellness brand, for example, or look at the fashion brand in Lagos. Now, the issue for this distribution is for the company is because they need a minimum order quantity. But I think that what they need to do, what the distributors need to do is probably align in terms of mapping. If they can't, if they're not able to bring up the amount that is expected to have a minimum order quantity, then one, the company needs to probably review that minimum order quantity and looking at the market. So that then ensures so that the territory mapping then it comes into being. So maybe the market they're selling into hasn't been mapped properly, because you need to understand your market, you need to understand what you're selling in that market. If you're asking people to do 100,000 units minimum order quantity, and it takes them 6 months to reorder, then you know there's a problem. Maybe the route to market for you is wrong. However, if the same market you're doing 100,000 and minimum, I mean, the other time is 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, then you know that your strategy is right. And then so what you need to do is map and get the right distributors. Now, if those distributors are able to meet up with that minimum order, then the question to be asked is, are they the right distributors for that company? One. Number two, company needs to do a proper territory mapping and understand the kind of customers that they have. But for the distributors, they are the ones who are left to the end of the stick, because at the end of the day, they are not making any money. If I can go and buy directly from the company, the same price they are giving to you, then why should I buy from you? Unless if you are my friend. So the issue is both for the supplier and the distributor to align. There was one point where we also said that, it's not every conflict that is bad, as long as it's structured. So when you're able to structure that conversation, audit those channels and communicate clearly between the supplier and distributor and the channel, you need to audit that channel. That was what I said, something about that mapping. Then communicate clearly in terms of what the expectations are and come to an agreement, because I think that this is something that is not a lose-lose. They need to try and align those intentions and have a fair commission structure. For example, you could say, well, if you're able to do the minimum, I know we used to do this sometime. So we say, okay, you can't do the minimum order. I'll incentivize somebody who's able to do the minimum order. Yeah, so I'll give you a 5% discount if you're able to do the minimum order. If you do, and the minimum order is 100,000 units. If you do 10,000, 15, 20,000 units, I give you 0.5%. Or from 0 to 20,000 units, no incentive for you. Right? You just take it and you go. But from 20 to 50,000, I give you a 1%, a 2%. And then when you do above target, so as you go, you progress the incentive. So that way, you're able to properly delineate and map your markets. And you know that I have X amount of distributors in this territory, but I know then who is selling what and why and where and how. So these guys, a bunch of them, 3 of them, I know that in this category that they can't do this amount. So at the end of the day, what usually will happen is that some of those distributors in the end may turn out to be retailers, because maybe they don't have the capacity to become distributors. So they become retailers to the main distributors, who are now able to do the volumes because they're incentivized to do that. So there's so many ways that you can approach this particular scenario. Right? But I think that one of the things that's very important is that that alignment should happen between the manufacturer and the distributors. So once that conflict is spotted, people need to have a conversation around how they can structure and align the business space for all of them to be able to succeed. Otherwise, it's going to be a crazy market. It's going to be chaos, because how long are you going to become a distributor when you're not making any money? That's my take on that. Please, if anyone has, some other insights, please feel free to give us your experiences as well. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for that response. And I think Mr. Saeed has also um, gotten some feedback and insight from your
Saidu Jiben. But
your
thank you,
response.
Saidu. That's a very valid
Practical
case that you
example.
raised. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So we're going to go to Q&A, unless if you have anyone also who wants to share. I saw, sorry, just a moment. I saw something in the chat box about vertical, right? Okay. Ibrahim said solar company is doing vertical. Okay. So they're doing is a vertical conflict. Okay. All right. That's nice. That's fine. Thank you. Okay. So before we go to I just want to do this as a final. Channel conflict is not chaos. Okay. So it's rhythm of growth. If there's a conflict, it means you're growing. Your brand is expanding, your reach is diversifying, and you're evolving. Your strategy is evolving. So don't see conflict as bad in its entirety. There's bad and there's good conflicts. So, but you need to spot it and turn that bad conflict into a good one. It's a friction that you need to embrace. It's a signal of strategic maturity and market momentum. So don't see conflict shouldn't push you out of your business. Don't see it as a bad omen all the time, but you need to spot it and understand how you can work around it and succeed. Final thought. So if there are any questions or answers or contributions, again, please, the floor is open. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Once again, I appreciate your time this night. And I also appreciate the feedback, your participation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. This is what you get from 2 decades plus of experience, and I'm sure justice has been done to the topic, and we have learned different strategies and also techniques in managing channel conflicts. Thank you very much, sir. In fact, your practical examples using the real life win was very educative and informative. Um, Identifying, spotting the conflicts, and even knowing the resolutions through price alignment and even market mapping. These are practical examples that we can also use and use directly in resolving channel conflicts. And lesson learned, you know, from the examples you've given, I think they are very insightful and educative. And I thank you very much once again. We appreciate your wealth of knowledge. And this is why we keep hungry to have a session with you in this business development series. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
We have 15 minutes over time, 18 minutes precisely. I want to say that if you have a question, please, you can raise up your hand if you want to use the mic, or you can just pop it in the chat box, while the facilitator will also respond or comment on it. To our participant on YouTube, we see you. We appreciate your time, and thank you for being part of the session. Thank you very much. So if you have a question, please drop it in the chat box. Okay. We have praises. Praises are coming in the chat box, and I want to believe that yes, the session was well explanatory. To be frank, And that is why this is what we get. Mr. Emmanuel is praising you and also thanking you, sir, for the in-depth explanation. Who can be that? Thank you so much for an insightful session. That's also there. Thank you very much, sir, for your effort and amazing presentation. All these are accolades and also praises in the chat box. This is just to signify that, yes, the session was well understood and we have learned a lot. I appreciate your time. And at this point, I will beg to end the session because we are 20 minutes over time already. So thank you very much all for your attention and for your time and for taking the time to be part of this informative and educative session. As you know, we do this every Wednesday and Saturday. Come next week's Wednesday, I want to invite you all to also be part of this session so we can also partner in development and also in building your respective business. To our facilitator, we can't be tired of learning from your wealth of experience. This session was quite insightful, and thank you very much for your time and for being resourceful to Fantel Business School and our business community. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
It's our pleasure. So at this point, I'd like to say, let's have a wonderful weekend and also night rest. See you all. Let's do this again on Wednesday. Have a
good night.
Yeah, good night from me here. Yeah, thank you.